Hello and welcome back to HGC, where we are here with North America. You might, see really quick that I am actually hosting, and Gilly is nowhere to be found. She is out sick today. So we got Caldor. Caldor, how did you get all the way over to North America that fast?
I just hopped over the pond. It was a quick ride, and I am happy to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome because luckily you got one of the most action-packed days to be involved in the North American scene. We have some of the most successful teams in all of North America, some of the longest standing names in North America, gonna head to head here again at the week number 2 of HGC.
It's awesome how official you are when you're on this side of the table.
It is, I'm actually, just camera angles alone, it's a little bit unique for me to be able to try and get used to. But either way, we do have the schedule here, the standings available for you guys so you can see where North America has shaken out so far. And with that is Gale Force eSports has found their way at the very top of North America, quickly followed by teams like No Tomorrow and Tempo Storm. But again, this is very early on, so that none of these are concrete. It's just kind of showing a little bit who's pulled ahead, who's struggling early on in week number 1.
Yeah, and I have to say that the games that we are having today are going to be great. As you can see, Gale Force has a 2-0 currently in the standings, and as we're going to see just in a second, they are playing against Tempo Storm here. So we have really packed games, and as you said before, yesterday I got a call and I was told, okay, Gilly, she might not be able to make it today because she's currently sick, so first of all, swift recovery and get better soon. We're going to hold on the fort until then.
You say hold down the fort. That makes it like I've got this under control. But, I'm essentially just avoiding a train wreck at all costs. No, but we're going to be moving on with today's schedule. So you guys know the action-packed day that we have here at HGC. And it's going to be Tempo Storm and Gale Force and Naventic in Roll20 here for North America. But Europe, Caldor, that was an amazing day for EU.
Yeah, 10 games, that was insane. If you haven't seen the games yet, make sure that you catch, ideally both series. We had so many upsets there, so many games that I did not expect. It was great.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And again, look at that. Tempo Storm and Gale Force eSports is going to be the first series to kick it off here. And I have so much to say about this series.
Yeah, me too. I watched all the NA games that we had so far, especially after we came from the mid-season brawl with Tempo Storm, with Roll20. I wanted to see how Roll20 does in their series, and then they lost. You have Gale Force now with new players in the lineup, all of a sudden building up the momentum. Just seeing K1 Pro in there again and having Caffeine on this one too, it's just so much fun. And I want to first of all see if Gale Force can take down Tempo Storm. That's the first one.
Absolutely.
And then for the second one, Glorang, I want to see where Roll20 is at.
Yeah, no, there's a ton of questions that we have to answer here at North America now that we get to see the second week because, for instance, Gale Force eSports with the new, revised, as we said, kind of Cloud9 3.0, it feels like here, with those core members finding each other. And then also Tempo Storm has actually changed the roles a little bit between Cattle and Fury, the main warrior, trying to identify themselves. We've just had shift after shift in North America, and we've been looking for the answers, and we're going to find them now. But it starts here with this series.
New Gale Force is going pretty good. More than anything, we proved in our first 2 matches that we have a lot to prove on. We have a lot we need to work on and a lot of growing room. Neither of those matches were as convincing wins as we want them to be. We had a lot of mistakes. This team was formed to win BlizzCon. That is our goal. Our goal is to go to BlizzCon and win. And coming out of that match, I said, if that's Fnatic, if that's any of the Korean teams, if that's any of the Chinese teams, if that's Dig, we get 3-0'd both of those series and we go home. Yes, we are happy that we won. And it is really nice because our schedule is very front loaded to have a couple wins under our belt, but we are not content or happy or okay with how we played. K1 and Fan just have a really good synergy of being able, playing together for so long. They really just know who needs to be doing burst, who needs to be sustaining, stuff like that. And cringy to say, it's been pretty beautiful for me to watch, because I feel they really just have so much synergy and it just feels they complement each other so well.
Gale Force really showed what they can do for Roll20, which they perform really well at mid-season. So we're trying our best, prepping, really figuring out what works best for us, more than kind of looking at what Jeffy does. I have a kind of mixed feeling about the roster because they used to have Equinox and Quen, which they're really good players, but then they didn't really have a tank Equinox did pretty well on a tank role, but it wasn't his like main role. So bringing Captain and K1, they're all solid player, and in the paper it should look best Jeffy ever been. But I think it's little too early to judge how they would do entire season just from that one game versus Roll20.
There you hear it. The thoughts of the players over the series, and it's Tempo Storm, Gale Force. The biggest thing for me is Tempo Storm just came off of a big win over Even in Death. The fact that they had a 3-0, it was convincing, but it wasn't maybe as convincing as I was hoping for. After the international experience, what we got to see from them at the midseason brawl. So from Tempo, I'm looking for just mass aggression from that team. I would love to see them try and shut it out. But then Gale Force, they've got this kind of super team hype of North America behind them. They go 2-0 running off of a win, not only just against Naventic, but also onto Roll20. And now it's kind of just, for me, it's like proving this week that, week one wasn't a fluke, that they have to justify those kind of the playstyle we saw out of week one.
Yeah, for me, it's also about just seeing Gale Force now, how strong they really are. And it was just so much fun to be with Fan at the mid-season brawl. And then in the morning, he looks tired, and you're going up to him, and you're like, why are you tired? He's just like, well, I went to bed at like 4 a.m. And I'm like, why the hell would you go to bed at 4 a.m.? He's like, I had to play the entire night. I was just cranking out the games on Europe and getting the practice in. When I go back home, we're going to win everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, that's a statement right there. So that was awesome. Just that dedication. And I just want to see how far they can go. It's amazing.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Fan, getting to see more of Fan was such a cool thing at the midseason brawl, and getting to talk out and hang out with him. But either way, we are ready to kick off this series. But first, we have to figure out where we are going. It looks like game number one here is going to be on Cursed Hollow, selected there by Tempo Storm. The bans, though, Dragonshire and Infernal Shrines have been removed.
Yeah, I have to say that Cursed Hollow is one of my favorite maps to watch. I absolutely love it. There's so many elements to the map where you can just decide, okay, we let an early tribute go, we let 2 go, we accept at some point maybe even a curse. There's 2 bosses, you can make so many plays here just from your macro decisions alone, that of course team fighting will always be one of the major aspects, but at the same time, map manipulation and just making decisions, do I go for the boss, do I prioritize the objective higher, can have such a massive impact. I absolutely love it. So many strategic aspects. It's going to be a great first map.
I agree with you. You know, Cursed kind of has so many different ways to approach it. Like Dragonshire, you know, we can expect the 1-4. You have to consider certain variables. But Cursed kind of has a little bit of everything, and everything is an option. But you have to determine it through the draft very early on what direction you want to move. Yeah. And we're going to see where Gale Force and Tempo Storm want to move so far. It's going to be a generic Tassadar band here, something that has been only rising in the North American scene.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see now the drafting compared to Europe, because what happened for us, after last weekend, we've seen Dignitas defeated by Team Liquid with the 3-0. We had a massive rise in double support, especially this weekend. It is crazy. So we got to a point where we have first picks on both sides being supports. And I'm really curious to see if that is mirrored in North America, or if you guys have a completely different approach to it.
I would say that I assume we will not follow up on it directly. We do see some double support time to time, usually around the Tassadar, but without Tassadar, it's not like the Brightwing, the Uther, like we see teams like Team Dignitas busting out even today. For the most part, it does seem like we've dropped from the double support, but it's not that it isn't an option, especially with Ario. That's the one where we're like, you know, we might look to commit to it, but again, it's not as heavy as we've seen in EU. It's a really interesting dynamic.
But still getting ready to ban out the Abathur here, which I really, really like. We've seen that so much at the mid-season brawl. Just the side soak alone, but then also having the option to empower any kind of melee assassin is great. And we have now, pretty standard I would say, pick up on Genji. So we're probably looking at Uther.
Yeah, Uther has got to be a high priority.
Nubarak.
Yeah, one thing, I mean, it's not that crazy, right? Like, it's pretty close, especially for the higher-end teams, the teams that went to the mid-season brawl, or teams like Gale Force eSports. They do have that international influence, but it's also a different patch than we saw in last week. So suddenly, priority of supports is going to be very different, because even in NA, we actually mix up the support priority past the Uther drastically compared to other regions of the world.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, there's 2 things basically for me. The double support is one of the aspects, and I like the opening in the draft. Pretty standard with the Genji and then the Anubarak and Uther as a follow-up. You can really tell that also Fan has been writing and has been doing some homework while he was over there at the mid-season brawl. But Malthael.
Yeah.
That's the big question. Where does he sit in NA compared to Europe?
I can say, at least from what we've gotten to talk to behind the scenes, out of hearing a couple of the thoughts from the European players and then also in NA, it seems like in general, NA is a little bit less hyped on it. I do think that we will see him 100% today, but where is, my general guess is going to be just a notch lower than what we experienced so far in Europe. But either way, Gale Force, they're going deep into their time pool here, considering if they want to pick it up for themselves. Dahaka and Li Ming, it's going to be a very generic composition. Double resets, though, for GFE, and on a map like Kurosawa, you can get away with compositions like that. You aren't worried too much about the wave clear unless this comes from a global, and conveniently, they've got the Dahaka.
Li Ming is definitely a bit higher than it would have been for European the setup, but the Dahaka is just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
The map just the control that you get in a macro game on the map is awesome. You have the side soak with the Dahaka, and he is just such a massive threat for the backline. We've seen him played so many times in Europe too, at the mid-season brawl as well. He poses a massive threat to any kind of squishy in the backline. You get that one engage, Genji jumps in with you, and all of a sudden you're potentially looking at the kill here. And Li Ming, of course, stand out with a poke that she has, always good. Also, great tool to burn down a Cocoon with Disintegrate.
Yeah, be able to get the Disintegrate Cocoon strategy. It's a double-edged sword, you know, because you never want to give it up to the other side, but you also don't want to pick it into an Anu, because you're like, oh, the anti-spell, it's just for the Cocoon. Is that worth it?
That's actually a question that I have for you, because Tim and I were discussing that a bit on the European side.
Yeah.
If you think about when Nubarak got changed, oh, Malfurion even banned out here, okay.
Yeah, that's actually a really cool talking point, mainly because we don't know where NA sits on the support priority past Uther, because Malfurion received a colossal adjustment, is I think the wording I'm going to put here. He just functions in a different manner, way more utility and damage oriented, less into the actual healing and support aspect for him, but still high enough of a priority to be considered the ban on a map like Curse.
Yeah, I did not expect him to be banned out here. We have seen him in Europe here today, but I didn't expect that it would rise to the level where you say, okay, we ban him out. But talking about the Nubarak and Li Ming for just a second, how do you think that dynamic, what's your opinion on the dynamic shift where at the beginning when a Nubarak was remade and came in and everyone said, oh my god, Li Ming in a Nubarak, are you crazy? It's instant GG. And by now we're at a point where you say, they have a Nubarak, better pick Li Ming because that Cocoon, you need to burn it down.
I like it. There are not enough tools in the game to deal with Cocoon at a safe level like Li Ming does, to where there's not enough resources to where I can see you going, well, we could pick this otherwise, right? Like in the Holy Trinity, we see variables of different forms of shielding being able to fill that role, but not the case when it comes to things like dealing with the Cocoon of a Nubarak. But Greymane and Arthas is the rotation here for Tempo. A very beefy, there's no individual like flavor really here. It's just kind of like a good overall teamfight comp that Tempo's been able to draft so far.
It's really generic and a bit old school. We've seen this exact setup at the front line already 2 months ago, but it's still super solid. Breaking through that, it's extremely difficult. And Greymane, once you get an engage in with good stuns, Greymane is just sitting there saying, thank you very much, who do I kill first? Question is just who do they pick up on the back end then for the next set of damage, because they still need someone that can pack a punch from a distance, I feel.
Yeah, and you know, here for Gale Force eSports, they're into what is Uther, one of the best supports in the game, if not the best as of the last patch. A Nubarak, Arthas, all those are pretty beefy. Greymane's even pretty survivable on his own into a double reset composition. So Gale Force has an immense amount of pressure on them this game to be not only on the same page with their initiation, but effective with every single spell they're throwing out. Otherwise, they will never get those resets.
Exactly. They need that kill, and the question is really, where do they start? I like, though, that they have with Muradin now another hero that can start with a stun. If you sync it up, as you said, you bring in, let's say, Muradin stun, then the Dahaka follows up with a drag, then you are in a position where with Li Ming and with Genji, you can get that damage delivered. But it's still going to be rough for them. Ideally, they are able to make a jump onto Greymane, or we can assume a Squishy here, because taking down that tank line is going to be rough.
Yeah, they need... Oh, man. This is... Right now, I feel like there's almost no pick that I see on the side of Tempo Storm that is going to be too big of a problem for Gale... Or, excuse me, that would set them behind the draft of Gale... set them behind. They already won this draft, in my opinion, by a large margin, just because, again, how difficult it is to set up that double initiation, double reset. If Gale Force wins and opens a fight properly, it's going to look insanely busted. But if they don't, I feel like Tempo Storm is going to make easy picking of them, even with this last pick. No matter what it is, Zeratul is only going to stall, counter momentum to the double reset even harder.
Yeah, Zeratul is a hero that I didn't necessarily expect with this, but if they actually play that right and just section off during a team fight, that alone, if you get the first kill with this comp, you can never really fall behind there.
Yeah.
It's just no way that an opponent takes it down in a 4 versus 5 with that front line. You must have the worst positioning in the world in order to allow that to happen, so...
Yeah, I really like Gale Force here. I feel like they have a Tempo Storm. Gale Force has to win through. I feel like a lot of it has got to be macro play, but Dahaka, 1 global, and you have a Zeratul to be able to get side soak on other aspects of the map. I'm just not convinced that Gale Force really has that big of a momentum in their favor just through the experience game in that Dahaka pick.
We always talk about the burden of execution, and I think without a doubt it lies within Gale Force.
Absolutely.
So I think if they play it perfect, there's definitely a lot of potential to clean a fight up, especially if they're able to jump on one target early on before it's a real 5 versus 5. But it is going to be rough. If they can force with Dahaka something, that would be fantastic. And I think the one risk factor, I would say, is probably even Zeratul, because he's the squishiest target that is going to look for the backline. So if you lock him down and get the first kill there, those resets really help you to start the fight.
I completely agree, because he's going to be looking to zone, get pressure onto the backline, and if he's caught out, Gale Force can open up the fight. But either way, we are ready to get into game number 1 here between Tempo Storm and Gale Force eSports. We're going to Cursed Hollow.
Jumping straight into the 4th game here at the HGC in North America. Tempo Storm versus Gale Force. Cursed Hollow, map number 1, and to the left, we have Tempo Storm with Cattle on Nubarak, Fury on Arthas, Psalm on Zeratul, Korthon on Greymane, and June on Uther.
And in the red here, we have Gale Force eSports. We're going to have Mike Udall on the Dahaka. We have Fan playing the Genji, going to be looking for those resets as we talked about. King Caffeine on the Murden is always a huge comfort for him there. K1 Pro playing the Li Ming, and Akaface on Rhaegar.
I kind of have to laugh a little bit that Caffeine is on the Murden again. It feels, I mean, it really feels like a bit of a setback. All of a sudden, we are 2 years back. He's just the Murden King, and already the pressure in the mid lane as Tempo Storm is looking to get a bit of damage onto the first tower here, but Gale Force reacts immediately.
Yeah, proper rotations and delay here for both of the teams. It's more of testing the waters often in this mid lane, especially whenever you have the Dahaka. It's kind of just like, we'll see if they're going to be too aggressive, then I'm going to burrow to the proper location later on. Because mid lane, we know the minions meet there faster, it's just a safe play. Nice catch out here, though. Going to force at least some kind of agility out of Fan.
Uh-oh, the stun of Uther, and no way! Fan gets away with minus hit points.
Yeah, gosh, that was such a good rotation from Tempo Storm. I just talked about how I felt like they weren't punishing nor forcing things or winning as convincing as I was hoping, and immediately one rotation of like, we predict where Fan's going to be and don't hesitate. That was awesome to see here from Tempo.
You said it right at the start that you wanted to see this aggression from Tempo, and Zeratul picking him up, he's definitely one of the squishies that Gale Force is going to look and kill when he goes a bit too deep, but that was absolutely perfect. Sniffing out a target, putting the pressure on, and nearly getting the kill on Genji. And they are continuing with the traps. I'm really liking it. Very aggressive stance that they take in this first game.
Yeah, it's a really nice to see that here. And Akaface, he received the pressure. He, again, another member of Gale Force eSports surviving by what seems like no HP. Tempo, just one auto attack away in both circumstances.
Yeah, they really come out swinging in this one. They don't get the kills, but then again, they put so much pressure onto Gale Force already that they had to tap the fountain. They had used the cooldown there, and they already feel that this is going to be a rough game for them. So Tempo Storm right now is definitely the one calling the shots.
And even though that doesn't seem that impactful this early on in this game, I would like to note that that can mean a lot to the later parts. I often actually neglect talking about this, but compositions that really want to initiate on the opponent versus getting initiated on. I talk about it with Stitches, like how he always wants to be the one saying, this is the fight we're going to take, and he hates to be the one walking away and being like, oh, they're diving me. Genji Li Ming composition, double resets are exactly that. They want to always be the one choosing it. So if Tempo has that blind aggression like that we've seen early on and that carries over to the post-10 fights, I think that only increases the probability of them being successful in this game.
It's always that psychological battle where you want to force your opponent to fight your game or to play your game. You never want to play theirs, and that's exactly what Tempo is doing perfectly right now. So we're going for in the first tribute, and of course we have at the top Siege Giants taken. My Goodall is going to have a bit of a rough time against this, and down here they just have to stall it out, and that's what Cattle is doing immediately as Akaface is attempting to get the channel through.
Yeah, no Beta Barbs picked up for Cattle, so he's not going to have that eternal delay with this tick damage coming out from his Q. Aka's going to start one more channel here. Should be another easy delay. With the Giants up on top, and Arthas is actually pretty successful into the Dahaka 1 versus 1. Tempo just wants stall time. Time is in their favor.
Yeah, they know that, and they play perfectly to it. So up at the top lane, value is being gained. And in the meantime, this Foreman that we see here does well too. All the shots are already lost on the tower. There's no ammunition left, and Arthas therefore has no fear just moving in against the Dahaka and being dragged into towers that don't do anything to him anyways.
Yeah, and if Tempo manages to stall this out until 7, they actually go from a we're looking to delay to we might be able to kill based off of Seeker in the Dark alone. Increases the kill potential so high. But Aka, he gets the channel, Cattle, the Frisbee, and the Impale are 2 out of range, and that is going to be first trib to GFE.
Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate for Tempo Storm that they couldn't get the interrupt, but then again, early tribute, so a bit of an advantage here now for Gale Force to the objective, but Tempo Storm still got quite a lot of value out of that top lane push. Up to a point where Mike Udall actually bees out and allows Arthas to really take over, uses his Z to go back onto the lane. The problem is he can't really pressure him too hard without the towers having ammunition for shots.
Yeah, absolutely. The Giants themselves didn't necessarily take out the front wall, but they enabled Arthas to be a big enough bully now to where he could do the bidding that maybe they failed to do on their own. So that is a very optimal situation that Tempo Storm find themselves in the northern lane.
It's the one risk when you run against Nabatha on the lane. It's not that he necessarily takes you down, is he drags you into the tower range, and all of a sudden it's shot after shot. You drop in HP and have to tap the well, and Arthas is never going to have to face this. Great move also here in the mid lane by Tempo Storm, getting the camp a bit earlier than their opponent, and they are netting a wall just as a result of that small time advantage.
It's so awesome to see this here from Tempo Storm, because again, that is just a small thing where it's just taking a part of capitalizing on a small misplay of Gale Force, right? So much so, you may not even call it a misplay, it was just slow to react.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that I really wanted to see out of Tempo Storm, that I felt like we failed to have last week versus Even in Death, but playing up to their opponents here being Gale Force.
I like the top lane though. Arthur's in a lot of trouble up at the top while we're seeing K1 Pro fight for his life in the middle. Li Ming is down. Arthur's escape. But what we saw on the minimap was really smart. Gale Force, they knew the wave was pushing into the tower, so they set up their Haka in the brush and sent Genji over because they knew that Fury had to rotate up or they would miss out on the experience. So first of all, they deny EXP to Fury, and then they are pushing in with 3, pressuring Arthas, breaking through the wall. That was a great rotation from Gale Force.
Really awesome to see that here from Gale Force. But in dour news, if you're a Gale Force fan, we've got a tribute and 10 spike available for Tempo Storm. Heroics are going to be what we would expect so far. The other two both can flex when it comes to the viability of Uther's Heroics. You can see Calf is going to go for 1 delay.
Yeah, he's going to get that one in. Fury. All right, there's the jump. Gets out safely. But of course, we have the Cursed Bullet Bay now, Cocoon being used as well. And the only one who is holding back his Heroics thus far is the Uther, who could still follow up an additional stun.
I really like Fan's position here, though he's not going to be able to totally capitalize. When the tribute's on your side right there and you don't have the 10 spike, Tempo could have actually flanked around that boss hook and just pin everybody onto this fort. Udall would not survive that on his own, but having Fan, having a high mobility, he could get dismount, a bit of fuel, and Tempo Storm no longer had the opportunity to punish, take the slower rotation here, and just trying to aid these Giants to gain value. But it's going to be pretty easy work here now for Gale Force.
There's only 1 kill on the map so far, and that was the kill against K1 Pro on his Li Ming in the mid lane that we saw earlier. But Tempo Storm, just from the feel of the map, they are dominating this right now.
Yeah.
The pressure is definitely on Gale Force. They're the ones always looking, can we go here? So in order to make this really work, they need to get these resets.
Yeah, they very much need them, and it's going to start here with June caught out. Nice rebuttal from Cattle, hitting the knock-up. The slow Howling Blast connects, but just pressure onto Udall.
Yeah, my Udall in trouble. Ancestral comes through. Not quite sure if that was needed from Arca phase. Udall already dropping the essence there, so that didn't look too bad. He would have survived, but that's another big cooldown use. So Psalm already attempting to channel through, but banned with the interrupt.
Kato goes in again, trying to zone off GFE. They go back, heal up a little bit. June is going to start the channel. Cap questioning, does he want to move in? 3/4 deep. That's going to be a curse now for Tempo.
Curse for Tempo, and at the same time, that fight could still rage on if Cattle decides to go in, which he does. He has Cocoon, he can still use it to isolate someone if they choose to do though. They haven't really used any of their heroics actually in that fight.
Yeah, everybody just Tempo Storm was like, would you like to take this fight? And Gale Force was like, you know, we're going to throw out the spells, look kind of flashy, but without gaining anything, not getting those resets we've been alluding to. They just find themselves in a position to not be able to take the fight.
If they realize how far ahead in cooldowns they are, they could definitely take any of these battles at this point, or just push forward and drop one of the walls at the key.
It's actually interesting because that hits kind of, it's a little bit backwards. Hold on a minute. Nice Void damage there and the knockup. Do they get the Void pick as well? No Nubarak stun.
Yeah, they don't have the Howling Blast on Fury at this point. They still have the cooldown there. But they're looking at level 13, and they are bursting through that wall at the keep. Another 10 seconds, they get value everywhere, and they are definitely putting pressure onto the keep. They might get a double kill here.
The body blocks coming out from Psalm after that teleport. That is now another member dead here. 3 picks for Tempo Storm so far. A keep 9 minutes in after the first curse. That was everything Tempo Storm could have hoped for and more.
That was absolutely perfect here on their part. They have the level 13 talents, 1.5 levels ahead right now. Tempo just impresses really early on here. Super aggressive against Gale Force, and it impresses me more so because of how Gale Force, with a new pickup of Caffeine, of K1 Pro, has been hailed as the team to beat, one of the teams to really contest the top of North America, and Tempo Storm just shows no respect whatsoever.
Yeah, you know, and it's even more just because, again, the criticism I had about their performance against Even in Death. I mean, Tempo won dominantly 3-0, but it just was, you know, a team that made it here even in death due to the disbanding of B-Step. I just wanted this almost like 4 to 5 level lead, just heart-crushing performance from them. But now against Gale Force, with only 3 kills, they've shown that a level experience advantage is just flat out outplaying, out-rotating on a map like Curse. So that is awesome to see this new innovation from them.
Up to the top lane, the Haka is actually getting serious value here. He's pushing down this one hard with the boss that they were taking. But of course the bot lane, that's a different story here. That's where we have a Nubarak and also Zeratul after the boss exchange, seeing if they can maybe even pressure heroes. But Gale Force has played this one really safe. Didn't move too far out onto the lane, just waiting at the wall for the boss. But it is going to break through a fair chunk of this now.
Yeah, very much is. And with Tempo closing in on the 16 mark, the map is pretty much going to be theirs for that long window and that entire level and a half. Gale Force may have to forfeit 1 tribute, but they should not, maybe even 2, really. That's that big of a time gap that they may lose 2, and 2 tributes falling down against Gale Force, or against Tempo, is something that you do not want this stage of the game. We know curses and bosses are, in fact, the win condition. Luckily, with this trib, it's going to be right before the 16 mark.
And in a really good spot for them as well, towards their side of the map, so they are already posturing. Could actually just try and all here, and I actually like that Tempo lets it go.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I was just, that fact that Gale Force got a spawn there, positionally they were all in position, and then also had the ability to just perfectly, with that little experience, get the delay. It just, I mean, the stars essentially were like, hello, would you like this tribute? Like, you could not have asked for a better spawn.
The Raven Lord was pleased.
Yeah, he was like, congratulations, Gale Force, you get this one.
No, but Tempo made a good choice not funneling into that small death threat that we had there and then desperately trying to fight for it. They knew that they could still let this one go. And now they have the 16. And I love how aggressive they are with this. They're actually posturing out towards the keep, willing to siege up here. And I'm really liking it.
Yeah.
So they are trying to get the most out of the advantage that they have.
This is almost day and night from a Tempo Storm before. Like, I cannot say enough positive things about this level of aggression. Yeah, they might not get this keep, but I don't care. The fact that they're looking at the keep is something that I feel like I would never have seen from Tempo Storm in the past. So the fact that we already here against Gale Force feel like we see an improved version of Tempo, I'm ready for this entire series. This is going to be hot.
Yeah, I absolutely understand what you mean. The only reason why they move back is since they see, okay, there's a tribute spawning. And they even set up this potential trap here. I love that even more. Storm coming in from the side. We have Genji and Haka now up at the top. And once they have the tribute, it just continues the same thing. They go down to the bot lane. They say, we have another half level. Let's try and see if we can drop the keep now.
Yeah, they're going to move in, getting that pressure. Haka still grasping here for the 16 talent here, and he's not going to have it in time. Tempo find themselves a second keep. The initiation, Ancestral, does land from Aka, and now the rebuttal here from Gale Force. But again, they're not 16, Kaldor.
There's the Void already used. Cocoon is as well in. Caffeine needs to be careful here. Ancestors are already out, but they're still trying to see if they can do something. Re-engage as the Nubarak dives in. They go for the kill, and they get Genji.
They get Genji, and they're going to get more. Mike Udall falling so very low, using the 16, the Tunneling Claws on out there. Flash thrown, but Caffeine is dropped 2 for nothing. And 5-0 in total here on Cursed Hollow so far for Tempo.
That engage was weird by Gale Force. The keep was already down.
Yes.
Why would you fight there if you know your opponent, first of all, has the talent lead, and second of all, has Cocoon and Void?
Yeah, it's essentially how I talk about it in North America is if you look at 2 decisions made to take that fight on bottom, you can take it with a keep or you can take it without one.
Exactly.
So why take the one without, right? Like it's like you either all in immediately or you don't force it desperately afterwards. The minute the keep fell, you go walk out. And Tempo, again, though, they capitalized near perfectly. Again, it feels like Tempo would not have done that in the past. They wait till they get too far out, and immediately Cattle burrows in, and they all initiate. That
especially after Zeratul dropped the Void, and they still followed, and then they said, okay, guys, they're so far, let's re-engage with the Nubarak, get the stuns, and they lined it up perfectly with the Cursed Bullet as well.
Yeah, the synergy here out of Tempo Storm. It's, you know, I just feel like it's been a long time coming to be able to see that here. They need to continue it, not only through the rest of this game, but the rest of the series, because Gale Force, I feel like after this game, might have a completely different approach to the series, especially if Tempo keeps up this dominant lead.
You have to ask at this point how much is coming down to the draft alone. We talked in the draft of how difficult it's going to be for Gale Force, how the burden of execution is going to be on their end to make these kills happen so they get resets for Genji and for Li Ming. And Tempo Storm, with the draft they got, they are totally dominating. But the question just is, as he said, will Gale Force just completely change their game plan after this?
Oh, man. K1 Pro, he scouted it.
All right, there we go. This is a Curse Tribute.
This is a Curse Tribute, and if Gale Force moves in, the Giants on top will get the keep. So I expect Tempo to actually back out once Gale Force shows heavy interest, which they will in the next couple of seconds, wait it out, and then reinitiate once the Giants are actually a problem. That would be perfect, but instead, they just go in, drop the Void, the Cursed Bullet, the drag coming out from Mike Udall, but there's going to be the D-Shield.
Already, Li Ming bursting away the Cocoon. Storm is low, and Genji wants the kill, goes in, but doesn't get it. But June, on the other hand, on his Uther, is low and is about to fall. That's the resets they've been waiting for, and they're trying to get the second one, going for Cawthon here on the Greymane, not getting him, but Cattle is a bit isolated now.
Yeah, still seeing the effect there of a dead Uther with Guardian of the Ancient King. It was, you know, able to keep everybody else up once June fell, but that initiation here for Gale Force, that's the first time we have seen signs of life from them here in this game. They will get a curse. They still have to be concerned with those Giants up on top. I expect Mike Udall to be the man to back out and respond to those, but this is the window. Gale Force has to open up the map. They've only gotten a fort this far in, and Tempo immediately turns around.
Tempo goes in and just slows them down significantly here. Not afraid to engage so close to their own safety in a 4 versus 5. And Gale Force goes for the first camp here. Question is, are they also going to make a play for boss?
Oh, man.
I mean, they could. Right now, they really don't get a whole lot. They are not getting any structures with this curse, and the curse is down to 30 seconds. The lanes are all pushed out because they lost the keeps earlier. It's a bit rough. Gale Force needs to get something out of this, and so far it doesn't really look good.
I really do want to credit Caterpillar specifically. I feel like all of Tempo Storm has shown this kind of aggression and this forcing that I've wanted from them for a while, but specifically there, on that initiation we saw Cattle go in, he didn't necessarily want to take the fight completely, but he totally understood that he needed to buy some time. Wait a minute here. Nice damage, but Fury's okay for now. Oh, look at the damage response into Caffeine. Everybody falling low. There's the Void. Cattle's looking for an impale.
Yeah, needs that. K1 Pro with the damage from behind. Fury is already there. Ancestral goes down. And at the same time, Mike Udall trying to move away, but look at that kill against Genji, who's once again isolated. He needed a lot of healing here, and he didn't get it.
And that is already a member dead for Gale Force. They're looking to retreat. The Giants up on top are still alive, Calder. That's what I was talking about. They stopped the curse, and look at these impales. Cattle is straight up CC City, locking down everyone on the side of Gale Force time and time again.
It's 8 kills against 1, and with level 20 nearly reached and 3 heroes for Gale Force dead, Tempo just has to turn around, take the boss, and can then move through the bot lane straight towards the core. By the time that's the case, they will also have the level 20 advantage.
Yeah, you see Gale Force realize that could be the end. The boss is all that they need, and so you see Akka get punished so heavily. K1 Pro, I respect what you're doing here, but I don't have the faith that it's going to work out. If you can buy a little bit of time, it might be able to aid, but once Akka commits, you both have to, right? You either all in together or you don't at all here. And now a staggered death for Gale Force and a boss available for Tempo.
I would rather have liked them to just not die there, not go in with Rhaegar, wait until they have 5 on the map, and then set up an attempt to flank when the boss walks past. I feel this is the only chance where you can, if you win the team fight, maybe defend.
Yeah, and now we got 15 seconds. Tempo Storm, they're going to take Giants to add salt to what is already the huge wound of this boss moving in towards the core. Cattle goes in. He's going to miss his CC, but he is 20. He's got the rewind. He can wait and cycle out those cooldowns once more. Udall gets pressure on the backline. Fan with the Dragon Blade, but nobody's health bars are even dropping. But the core shields are.
Nice. Cocoon immediately being used to counteract it, and now they just simply void the back and go straight for the core. Great play by Tempo, and a dominant victory on the first map against Gale Force.
If Tempo Storm plays like they just did every single game for the rest of HGC, I wouldn't be surprised if they just flat out clean sweep North America.
Yeah.
That was pretty. Every moment that they needed to start initiation, Cattle went in and did it. And that is something that I don't know if I could have ever said about their performance of all of Phase 1. That was Cattle, for me, in that game, absolute MVP. That was very impressive.
It was incredibly clean what they just played there, and really impressive from the get-go. Super aggressive stance on the map, and they never let Gale Force get into their comfort zone. They said from the entire time, okay, we can just take this and we will force them to play our game. I was impressed by the first map, but I want to see how much came down to the draft here.
Yes.
What are they going to do in the second one?
Yeah, what adjustments do we see out of Gale Force? Not such a high execution composition like we saw in the last one, which is even staggered harder by the fact that they have a new roster, which means their synergy had to be that much more on point for that type of composition to be successful. I agree with you. I am interested to see what adjustments Gale Force manages to make, because also when I talked to Mike Udall, one of the biggest things that he said was he felt like you could see them adjust in the middle of the series out of the 2 series we saw in week number 1. So he's got to be optimistic that they would be able to do that here against Tempo Storm.
Yeah, and if they can pull it off, I wouldn't mind if we have that back and forth series where all of a sudden they throw a curveball and Tempo will have to adjust their own style as well. So I'm hyped for the game, for the second game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it here. The biggest thing I think, I don't actually know. I don't even know what I want to see mainly here. It's just how does Gale Force recover with the pressure Tempo's put on?
I mean, we also have to think about the 2 aspects we mentioned before we headed into this. How much of a game changer is Malthael going to be with this? Is he maybe going to be picked up? If Gale Force has more experience with the hero in season opening where they say, hey, we can play with Malthael and just bring something to the table that Tempo Storm can't counter, can we get an edge over that? Or maybe even coming back to the double support and playing one of those hyper carry styles.
Talking about Malthael, we also got some of the thoughts of the pro players in all of HGC from North America and Europe to hear what they thought about the hero, and so we're going to send that over to you guys. Nope, Chuck Testa. I got baited and outsmarted, and nobody's talking in my ear. It's still broken.
We are actually back.
I'm sorry. This is why you don't let me host. I throw to things that don't exist. I talk about things that
We
aren't
have
real.
the video. I saw it.
Do we?
Yeah.
We
we have a video.
I refuse to believe that's a thing.
I saw it already. It
You
was on
did?
the European
Is
broadcast.
it good now? Oh, yeah, no, we have the video.
No, just not here.
Yeah, it's disappeared. Either way, game number 2, a lot of it's going to be the draft.
We can sum it up, though, if you want.
Say what?
We can sum it up. We can talk about
Malthael and the power of Malthael? Yeah. I mean, go ahead, give me a TLDR, because
I mean, basically what we're having in Europe, he's mainly a solo laner that we see, and after he gets a 16 in particular, he really kicks off. So the he adds a lot, and we have seen him rise to an extent where sometimes you even see him banned out, and excels mostly on maps where you have a lot of clumping happening, obviously, since with the Reaper's Mark and the application